right, we are live. Welcome. San Diego real estate is in a weird state. And today we're going to tackle this situation with John Mattery. Thanks, John, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You. Leo Gonzalez, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to see you.
Good to be back.
So I'll play Ronald McDonald today, if that works for everybody. There you go. But I just don't think it's fair that McDonald's has the steak on the red and yellow, man. It's just not right.
Yeah, you
So
do
I'm-
kind of look like McDonald's.
I'm taking some back. Today.
Okay.
San Diego real estate's in a weird state. And I describe the weird state as being sort of a stalemate in a lot of cases. The bid and the ask have some distance between them. Sellers, it's just a matter of when do sellers catch on, right? Because buyers are going to do what they do. Sellers obviously always make the first move. So just like girls on Bumble, sellers always make the first move in real estate, right? Because the first stage of the negotiation is slapping a price on the house.
Correct.
That's where the negotiation begins.
Right.
So for people who don't realize, it doesn't matter what kind of market you're in, buyer's market, seller's market, doesn't matter. Sellers always take the first step.
Correct.
Now, the question is, the first question I'm going to start for you guys is, are sellers beginning to get the picture? John.
Yes and no. It's a
Halfway.
lag. It's a lagging process. Typically, we start seeing this a few months before the media starts putting it out there, and the media wants to see that it's trending, and then the sellers start kind of picking up on it. There's plenty of sellers right now that are still thinking we are in the spring market of this year, which was hot. But there are also plenty of sellers out there that understand that we're going into the winter market. And the ones that really understand what's happening are the ones that are having educational conversations with their listing agents who are watching the market. Unfortunately, not all listing agents watch the market, and they're behind the curveball, they're behind the 8-ball, and it takes them about 3 to 4 months to catch up to that.
So you still think there's some people in the industry who haven't really caught on to
Yes,
what's
trickle
taking
down.
place?
It's absolutely trickle down.
So we're still in the transition phase.
I think more and more now they're picking up on it, but we've been looking at this for, ever since the Fed started raising rates and trying to figure out when that slowdown is. And now we're starting to see that slowdown. The question is it a slowdown of 25%, just kind of slowing down? We saw kind of that in 2014.
Right.
Or is it a complete crash, which you've got the sky is falling chicken little guy saying, or are we going to make it through and be okay? And the only way for us to figure that out is to look at the numbers, and we can talk about that.
Okay, we're going to take a deeper dive then
Yeah.
into some of those numbers. Well, how about from your perspective, Leo? Are you seeing sellers catching on here? How close do you think we're, if 1 to 100, if 100 is sellers know exactly what's going on in the market, where are we right now?
I think we're at 90.
Really?
I think well, actually no, I think sellers, I said that wrong. Sellers are not catching on right now. They're in shock. They still think we're in the spring market. They're starting to ask their agents, what are you doing to sell my house? Why is it not selling in 2 weeks? Why is it not selling in 7 days? And the reality is that the rising interest rates are, digging into the prices. Right now what we're seeing is sellers ask agents, what are you doing to sell my home? A lot of agents can't just put a sign out there anymore and expect the home to sell. It's just not going to happen. They really need to have a marketing plan. They really need to be actively, aggressively marketing the home, trying to get as many buyers in these properties in order to find that one buyer that's going to buy the home.
So would you say that we're more like on the low end of that scale then? More like, did you mean to say like 10?
Right,
Like
10. Exactly,
Okay, so
right.
so like sellers really haven't caught on yet.
No, definitely not.
And let me just say one thing. This is directly to people who are thinking about selling their home. Really, the smartest thing you can do when selling your home is do some research, hire a good agent, and then turn it over to them. This is one thing that most home sellers just don't do. If you have a good agent, if you do the research to get a good agent in place, what you should do is then turn it over to them and say, look, you know my situation. You know what I'd like to get for this property, but you also know I want to maximize the sale price. You clearly want to do that as well. Let your agent do their job. This is a great opportunity to actually let good agents do their jobs well for you. And I think that, at least from what I've seen, the biggest problem is that that's not what's happening. What's really happening is these sort of behind the curve, uneducated, not taking a swipe at sellers, but they don't know what's going on. They're trying to dictate terms and the way that these properties are marketed and sold, and that is not good. That right there is like, it's like amateur hour. So, when that happens, we end up with situations where people are saying crazy things like, well, I won't take less than that much for it. And then 4 months later, your price reducing way below that, and it's like, well, what are we doing?
Right.
What are we doing here? We're
There are
making a mess.
There's a lot of new agents in the market also that maybe aren't seasoned. Maybe they're good agents. Maybe they've been trained well, but they're not seasoned enough to have those hard conversations with their sellers and say, hey, Mr. Seller, I don't think I can get you $1 million for your home. I think it's worth $600,000.
Yeah.
And that's a hard conversation to have with somebody. At the end of the day, if the seller wants to list for $1 million, the seasoned agent probably won't take their listing. They'll probably give it to a newer agent, and it'll sit on the market until they decide to get realistic with their price.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're going to be seeing here are we're going to have sellers that don't need to sell, get out of the market. So as inventory has gone up, it's a lot of sellers that are like, hey, if I can get this price, then I'll sell. So we see that kind of blend in with our inventory going up. But they'll probably get out of the market. And then those sellers that are realistic, they need to understand their listing agents are going to have to tell them weekly updates as to what the feedback is on your home. If it doesn't, let's say that your home in the area is supposed to move within 17 to 30 days. Usually it's about 17 days or it's 30 days. And you're on day 25 and your home hasn't moved yet. Well, is your agent, have they been updating you every week as to why is your home not selling? And it's not always necessarily price. And we think that we came out the gate at a good price. But we've got to look at the feedback for all the buyers that came through the home at the open house. And if you did a good open house, you're going to have, 30, 40 buyers come through. And then you're going to go back and get feedback from every single agent that showed that property to each buyer. And good, the bad, the ugly, whatever it is, we want to know. And then you're going to circle back to your seller, making sure every week they understand where that market is. And we've had sellers come to us and say, hey, you need to drop the price of my house. Instead of us saying, hey, you need to drop the price of your house, or I need to do this in order to give more curb appeal or whatever it is. So that's a lot of the extra education that a seller needs to look for in their real estate agent that they pick. How knowledgeable are they on that area? How knowledgeable are they on the market in general? Are they watching what the Fed's doing? Are they watching what we're doing with China? And all the rest, and then boil it down to how does this impact the sale of my home?
And is affordability, as we've seen interest rates go up, and that's kind of what you mentioned, Leo, was digging into home values. Have you seen that on the buy side? Have you seen that be a realistic thing where buyers are gone, well, we were looking at this price range, but now we're looking at lower, or the payment's now too high on that? Has that actually
translated into the buyer market? No, but what I've seen translate into the buyer market is the psychology that rates are still going up. And since we just came out of the recession, there's the psychology that because rates are going up, we're going to fall off a cliff. So should we wait until we fall off that cliff in order to pull that trigger? The truth is no. Property values are continuing to rise, albeit slowly. You're going to see in the media properties are falling, but what are they falling? So we had an 8% increase last year. We're projecting a 5% increase for 2019. We're projecting around a 4 and a 3 and a 2 as the Fed continues to raise rates. Going back to 2005, the federal funds target rate was 5.25. What's it today? Do you
Much
know?
less.
Yeah, throw a dart out if you don't know.
You're talking about the Fed rate?
Yeah.
It's, this is a really good question. I think it's like 1.5 or something like that.
Well, it was, yeah. So now it's 2% and 2.25. So going back to 2005, the federal funds rate was 5.25. And if we look at the dot plot the Fed puts out,
Interesting.
yeah, 5.25 for about a year and a half before they started dropping rates again in 2007. But if we look at how the Fed's plotted for the next 2 years until 2020, the Fed's target rate, as it stands right now, is going to be around 3.625, might hit 4%. Okay, on top of that, mortgage rates, climb with that. And so how does that bleed into our market? So we're going to see that gradual increase in rates and then probably continue to drop it. Or they could not raise it that high if they see that inflation's in check, which is their core job.
Right.
And inflation right now is at, throw out another number.
You want me to guess on inflation?
Yeah, what's our core inflation right now?
It's got to be under 3%.
Correct. It's 2.25% basically right now. What was our inflation in 2005 when the Fed was jacking rates? What was our inflation in 2005?
Must have been higher.
Part of it went into the 4th percentile. We settled around 3.6, 3.5. I might be off a little bit, but quite a bit higher. So the Fed started raising rates prior to 2005 in order to calm inflation. And as they calmed inflation, obviously we also had the financial crisis and a lot of other things that triggered a massive global meltdown, primarily B paper loans. We don't have that right now. We have the Fed curtailing inflation. So if we're at 2.2%, and so everyone knows, what's their target sweet inflation price? What kind of inflation are they shooting for on an annual basis?
2 to 3%.
Right, 2%. And so as they see it climb from last year of 1.5 into 2 to 2, that's why they start raising rates, leading before then, in order to keep
a lid on that,
and then bring it back down.
They're also selling mortgage-backed securities at an insane clip. It's actually started in the beginning of October. So Monday started the final leg of the Fed's mortgage-backed security sales program, which is going to take over 6 years if they continue at this pace to actually unload the balance sheet completely. They have over $4 trillion.
From QE 1, 2, and 3?
From QE.
Okay.
And so that now this month they start at $50 billion a month. And it started in the third quarter of 2017 at $10 billion a month. They did that for a quarter, and then went to 20 billion, and then 30 and 40, and now we're finally at 50, and they're going to stay at 50 until they're clean. And that's going to take over 6 years.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So they got to go back out and reap what they sowed, right? Or go on out and they bought all this. The government owns so much U.S. debt. China owns almost 20% of our U.S. debt. So it'll be interesting to see, the question that we're looking at that people don't know what's going to happen is if we have a very large trade war with China, we believe it's going to be probably 100%, at least JP Morgan Chase came out today and said we think by next year it's going to be 100% trade war. And if they decide to stop buying our bonds and start unloading our bonds, they probably won't because that hurts their currency and it hurts trade. But maybe they get a nationalist president that decides that, hey, let's just unload all this. So those are things that we kind of look for down the road. But as far as I'm concerned right now, it looks like for the next 5 years, even though it's a slowdown in appreciation, what we're finding from CoreLogic and economists, and they're saying there's definitely going to be a slowdown. The bears are saying it's going to be a way slowdown. Bulls are saying, no, we're still going to be good. But moderately, we're probably still looking at around 18% over the next 5 years. So as we trickle down, here's another number that's interesting. What's an average appreciation since the 1960s? That's basically a stable appreciation rate for the U.S. On average, how much do we appreciate for real estate?
On average, it's probably right around there, 2 to 3%.
Correct. It's 3.6%.
Yeah.
And that's the happy number. So we're looking at as we've been up here, we've been at double digits. We were double-digit depreciation during the recession.
For sure.
But right now, we're looking at kind of a slowdown between 5 to 18%. So if you're looking at property values continuing to go up, albeit more modestly, and who knows on year 6, and next year we can get together and we can kind of see what year 6 looks like, because things can change like that.
For sure.
We've seen that. But just right now, from everything that's come out with the Wall Street Journal, economists, and the stuff that we're watching, is we're continuing to have moderate growth in appreciation. And then, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'll give you a shot next.
And I'll dumb this down here in a little bit.
Yeah.
You translate. I'll translate.
Okay. So then the question is, if mortgage rates are rising, and prices are still slated to rise, when's a good time to buy?
You really think prices are going to go up next year?
I'm not
honestly?
saying that. All the economists are saying. I do, and there's other reasons for it, and we can kind of.
I'll make
we'll
a bet.
du-
I'll make
I'm
a
gonna
bet
have
with
you
you.
dumb it down with me.
Sure.
I'll make a bet with you.
$1,000, go.
Okay. For 2019?
Yeah.
Okay.
No
bet-
appreciation.
bet you $1,000.
You're
Yeah.
betting on depreciation.
I'll bet on, I'll take the under. If we say
Okay.
that neutral would be 0.0%,
Correct.
I'll take the under.
All right.
San Diego County.
2,000.
$2,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Right
Okay.
here.
On camera.
Yeah, we're good. San Diego County is gonna be fine. We're still gonna go, but you asked me about 2023, and I might go the other way and bet that we've got some depreciation.
By then.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is with the projections. So the economists, what they miss is the deceleration, right? They're looking at trajectories based on past information, and that information right now will have us in an upward trajectory that looks to be difficult to derail. But what we've seen is a number of comp bombs in really lots of areas that have been really strong. And it's much easier for home values to go down than it is for them to go up. Home value can go down very easily, and you can screw a whole neighborhood with one person, one seller who's already moved to Virginia, and hey, just get the house sold, John.
Right.
Do what you got to do. Just sell it. We bought it in 2012. We're fine. Just sell the freaking thing, please. And everyone else in the neighborhood gets stung by that. For property values to go up, it's much more difficult because you need to have someone who's willing to pay more than the last appraised value. You usually need someone who's going to come out of pocket for that additional amount. So it's actually a much more difficult thing for property values to go up than it is for them to go down. There's just inherently more resistance. I think what the economists have underrated is the acceleration and the increase of mortgage rates because of the Fed sales and the mortgage-backed securities. And I think they've also underestimated the intangible exhaustedness of most buyers. There's an exhaustion level. If there were an index that showed you the exhaustion of buyers, it would be off the charts. They're just over it. They don't want to buy anything unless it's perfect.
Right.
And if you take a look at how many people have equity, and this is the difference, that person who's selling that home, it might be a comp bomb for everyone else, but they're still walking away with money. It's not a short sale. They bought it in 2011, 2012. They moved to Virginia because they got relocated. They're selling at $100,000 under market because they don't care.
Right.
They don't want to make the mortgage payment again. It's not because it's distress. They're still going to get a check. So with all that equity, what it does is sort of like Bitcoin. You watch it go straight up like this parabolically. It can go down by half. And there's still tons of people selling at that point who are making money. So we have a unique situation where people can actually sell properties for much less than the last comp and still walk away with a
check in their pocket.
That's a big difference maker. Lear, what do you think about that?
Well, I agree. I agree with that statement. I'm a good example of that. I bought a house in 2011 for $290,000. Right now, it's worth almost double. And if I needed to sell it quickly, I could, and I'd still get a nice hefty check. Going back to the interest rate, so in my market, prices.
Can I give you a golf clap? Because I mean, that's what you should do, right?
Yeah.
Hey, if you want to work with a real estate agent that's making money in real estate, right?
Right.
Thank you. Sell your house.
So going back to the interest rate. So what I'm seeing in my market is buyers are payment sensitive in my market. They're seeing the interest rates increase, and they're in shock. They're in shock. That $200 or $300 difference in a mortgage will make all the difference between buying and not buying. And most buyers in my market, which is South County, they have enough money for their down payment. They don't have enough money to upgrade the home. So what we're seeing are homes that are highly upgraded go fairly quickly. Homes that are mild fixers sit on the market for longer periods of time. And in many of those cases, the homeowners end up reducing their price 20, 30, 40, 50,000 because they have the equity, because they bought the house in 2011. But when they do that and they undersell the property, the neighbors aren't going to be able to sell there. Actually, that just happened on one of my listings, 600,000 plus, neighbor around the corner, model match, listed his the day we went into escrow at 570. And we're in escrow at 6 and some change. So
That's crazy. isn't it?
that's crazy.
And so the inventory in South Bay has actually been one of the things I've been really paying close attention to, and the inventory is through the roof. And it's like, okay, so the reason why I like looking at South Bay as one of the core markets to take the temperature of the marketplace is considered to be a get-in market, but you have newer homes, newer communities, good schools. You have a lot of things that are great for first-time buyers, or where you would say there's bigger buyer pools, right? So there's a bigger buyer pool. And there was so much inventory. I like to look in the under 600 detached range to kind of really get a taste for it. I couldn't believe how much inventory there was.
There's a ton.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much on the market. It was just like, wow, how could this be? I haven't seen a ton of like comp bombs, or what I would say like, hey, whoa, what happened there? I haven't seen a ton of that yet, although there has been a few. But you just wonder, like, when does that start popping off? And and everyone on the market starts to get affected by that, like that starts to become a problem. Or like, hey, you're in escrow over here, and then this guy comes in the market, now your buyer goes, whoa, well, hold up.
Exactly.
Can we still get out of this? We need to take a step back. Because if values are coming down like that, then maybe we should be holding off right now. So the momentum, the shift, the change of momentum is a delta that's greater than what it sounds like. It's just like if we're playing one-on-one and I shoot a bucket and I make it, it's +2 for me. Well, if you stole it and you went and made a bucket, it's +2 for you. It sounds like a 2 point, so it's a 4-point swing. And that's the thing that the economists have factored in.
Well, yeah, we'll see. $2,000 later. But
I will take your money too.
Yeah, you will, and I'll get it. Cash. The market year over year has gone down in sales by about 10% in the county.
Units.
Units, yeah. The inventory has gone up by about 21%. So we are seeing the market slow down and more people have their home on the market. The question is, how long are they continue to have their home on the market? They're not the same home seller as we saw 10 years ago. The guys whose homes were on the market, a lot of it with the banks. It was foreclosures, and then it became the short sales, became distressed homeowners that needed to sell. So how many homes did we have on the market at the height around 2004 to 2006?
How many homes do we have in the market?
Yeah, what was the height?
The height, gosh, I think it was like 8,000 maybe or something like that.
That's today.
9,000?
That's today. We have 8,000 on the market.
Today we have 8,000?
Yeah.
How many was it then? It was like 12?
24.
24,000?
Yeah.
Really?
So when we start seeing that type of inventory hit the market and that type of a distressed seller and a bank that doesn't care, they own 30% of the market, then we see that accelerated depreciation. Things that we have learned since that market, things that banks have learned since that market is, let's say we do have a dive. Well, banks have learned short sales net them more and is a cleaner sell than a foreclosure.
For sure.
So let's work with people to short sell or modify or whatever it is. That buyer that has been in the market over the last few years came through the credit crunch. That swung the other way. This side was, if you had a pulse, we're going to give you 125% of what your home's worth, so that we're going to give you the house and here's an extra 25 for doing whatever you want.
True, and I'm not saying that we're going to see values go down by 30%,
I don't think we're anywhere near that.
40%.
No.
But I think that you're definitely going to see depreciation. I do want to get to some of these comments. You can scroll that up real quick, Carrie, just to whoever the first people were to say what's up. We are live on Facebook right now. Drop your comments in, say what's up, share this video, make your friends smarter than everyone else. We're talking about San Diego real estate. What's up, Chris Sprague? He said smart sellers are letting the realtor price the home. Yeah, if you have a good agent, let them do their job, for God's sake.
Yeah.
If you're 3% off, no offers will come. It's true. You got to be right in there. Carlos says, do you want to chase the market or do you want to get ahead of the market? You should always be ahead of everything, my friend Carlos. Motivation trumps price. Agreed. Chris says, communication is the key. Yeah, if you want more money for the home, offer it up for lease purchase or hold the note. I have a feeling that if you wait 6 to 12 months, San Diego homes will go down another 45%. I agree with you on that one. Interesting comment, Chris, that we could actually have a whole show about that probably. Brenda Cran, what's up? How you doing? She said, market correction, interest rates are going up. Agreed. When buyers get picky, that's when you see the market change. Old school agent, she says. Justin Cody Ward, what's up, Justin? Brandon Rampani just jumped in. How bad are the current listings feeling? How bad are the current listings feeling this? Yeah, I mean, so, and that's kind of where I wanted to take the conversation. So thank you guys for chiming in here on the show. We appreciate it. Add your comments in. We'll say what's up, say hi, share this post. Well, how do you price the listing then now? I mean, like before, let's just go back to the summer. It was, all right, what was the last comp? Let's go a little above that. It was, let's go a little above.
Right.
Because the expectation is that, home values are increasing. What do you do now, Leo?
Take a look at your competition first and foremost.
What's on the market?
What's on the market.
Okay.
Compare what you have to sell to what's currently on the market. And then also take a look at the pending listings. What's in escrow? What's sold? How long did it take to sell? Did it just hit the market a couple days ago and then go into escrow right away? They were doing something right. So that's something to take into consideration. Also take into consideration the sold comps, so you don't undersell yourself or oversell yourself. You want to make sure that you're within appraised value, at least in my market, because most homes in my market are pretty cookie cutter. And if you feel like you have a superior product, you have a ton of upgrades, you have a pool, you know your home's going to sell, then price it maybe closer to the higher end of the comps. But if you have a fixer, you definitely need to take into consideration all the dollar amount that it's going to cost to bring your home up to par.
People are
and
gonna
price
want
it
a deal.
accordingly. Exactly.
They're going to want it as a deal.
Exactly.
What do you think, John?
Yeah, so take a half-mile radius away from any home, right? Go back 12 months. Look at how many homes sold within the past 12 months. That tells you how many buyers are buying something that looks just like your house, right? Not just every home, but like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Look at that, comp it kind of like an appraiser does. So you look at the past, and then take the last 3 months and see what's in escrow, see what's sold. And then take how many homes are active. What's your competition? Take your seller out to look at that competition. I haven't seen that very much. Get your seller in the car and say, hey, we got to go, because guess what? That buyer that's coming and buying your home, he's already seen all these. And he's probably seen like 3 months prior to this. Now, how many buyers are in the market, right? Going back to how many people bought in the last year. Typically, you're looking at anywhere from 2 to 5 a month looking for your product. So you're really marketing to those 2 to 5 buyers. And then take exactly what you said. What made that pending home sell? Why'd it go? Why'd it go fast? Why are the ones on the market right now? Which ones are hot? Which ones have been on for a long extended time? These guys are probably going to have a price reduction, so they might be competition coming up. So really understanding exactly what you're saying, what your competition is, and then price it accordingly. And price it, if we, going back to my belief that we're going up by about 5% next year, maybe 4.5%.
I think I'm going to bet
And
you
$2,000
too.
bucks.
You should get in on that.
I think I need to get on this right
Then
now.
you could try to do a time adjustment, but only a psychological time adjustment, and
So you're
meaning,
saying price above?
no, I'm not. And so it's psychological time adjustment in your seller's mind, and price it below, and say, hey, if we can hit half a point above the last comp, or a point above last comp, then that's gravy. But always price it below your competition, slightly below, because you open up that buyer base. And the only way you're going to drive that price up is to make your home that hot property. And so that, let's say there's 2 buyers a month that are buying in there. They're the ones that are going to bid against each other.
So let me ask you guys both this question. Let's say, I have a listing coming up, and let's say, Leo, let's say you have one in escrow. If I'm the agent, if I call you, I say, hey, just curious, did you have multiple offers? Like, would you answer my call and say, hey, I have a listing coming up in the area. I just want to know, like, did you have multiple offers? Like, I see you went into escrow in a week. Like, would you release that information to me?
I'll it's case by case, but more than likely I'll share some information with you. I get those calls all the time.
Do you?
I share as much information as I potentially can, as long as it's not funky or out of any personal information. But yeah, those are good calls that professionals need to have with each other, because at the end of the day, we're a competition, but we're also bringing buyers and sellers together. So those are important conversations
I
that
feel like that's huge, because that really tells you.
It is huge, but but you probably don't have that conversation with someone until after that buyer's removed their contingencies.
That's a good point. That's a good
Because
point.
you don't want that buyer on your house, and buyers are going to get more flaky when they have more options, and they have 25% more options. They're going to get flaky, right? So it's important for us to give them definitely share in the industry. You call me, and I'll be like, hey, call me in 10 days. I'll tell you exactly what's up. Or because I don't want that buyer just jumping knowing that his is coming on the market.
Yeah.
Use your
makes sense.
discretion, right?
Yeah, be smart about it. But I mean, like and the reason why I ask that is because it's being a realtor is sort of a brotherhood, if you will, right? I mean, it's like, hey, we're all kind of out here fighting the same fight, dealing with the same things, trying to make it work. The market's getting weird. And if you could know some of that information, some of that behind the scenes information, it could help you tell your seller, like, hey, they did sell quickly, but they only had one offer. So I think they just got good timing, whereas...
So I was negotiating recently. I was representing the seller, and it's exactly what happened. I called that agent that was my competition in a different development, but definitely close to a model match to what I have. And I just asked the questions, and I didn't give her any answers. But I wanted to know where their seller was at. Why were they on the market for 30 days? Mine's just coming on the market. And what kind of action did you have? And is the seller action as to how many buyers came through and whatnot? And is the seller going to drop the price anytime soon? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Got all the information I needed out of her. I went back to my seller and said, this is exactly what's going to happen. So you need a price here. Be prepared for the guy that's going to come through, write an offer, and we know exactly how to strategize our listing before going on the market. That's my job as a listing agent, is to interrogate the market so that I do the best job I can for my seller as well. Luckily, hers also sold, but the guy, turns out, that was going to buy her condo ended up buying mine over $5,000.
Really?
Over $5,000.